Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Harmony podcast series, and I'm pleased today to be joined with Jim Geckler, Chief Operating Officer for Harmony Foundation. Welcome, Jim.
Hi, Gina. How are you?
I'm good.
Good.
So we're really interested in hearing more about Harmony and your take on Harmony over the last year, particularly since you came here a year ago. But before we do that, I'd like to learn a little bit more about your background and how you got into the field of addiction treatment and recovery.
Sure. Well, so I am in personal recovery, and actually last Sunday I marked 18 years of continuous sobriety, which is an accomplishment I never thought I would reach. And my life is so much richer and wonderful because of all of the things that have come my way through recovery. So I was living in Minnesota, where I had moved from the East Coast to go to treatment, and I was working in a coffee shop, and I decided I wanted to be a counselor. I think primarily because my sponsor was a counselor, and I did want to find a way to give back. So I was managing this coffee shop, and one Sunday morning I was working, I was at a pancake breakfast at a church near my house, and this was back in the day of day timers, before we had our calendars on our phone, and I opened my store late and got fired.
Oh, wow.
And it was one of those, there were three things you could get fired for immediately, and one of them was opening the store late. So I went in and I opened my store and called my boss and explained what happened, and kind of sat there thinking, well, what's going to happen now? Because I wasn't in a position where I could go to school and not work. And I went to a meeting, which is where I would go to get support for things, and was talking about that. And Chris Edrington, who owns St. Paul Sober Living, based out of Minneapolis, St. Paul, came up to me afterwards, and I had known Chris for a while, and asked me if I would manage his LGBT sober house that he was opening. And that was my first job in recovery. From there, I went to work for a company that provided intervention and family consulting services, worked on the phones, ran their call center, did outreach for them, and eventually was chief operating officer there. I was with them for about 7 years when I got a call one day and was invited to join the team at Hazel and Betty Ford, and where I spent another 7 years. I was working at Hazel. I was Director of Patient, Alumni, and Community Relations for the foundation, and I was out visiting my good friend, Dr. Annie Peters, who's Chief Clinical Officer at Harmony, and she brought up that they were doing a search for a Chief Operating Officer, and things aligned, and I had some great interviews and came out and met with the board and spent some time with Dot and the team that I would inherit eventually, and came out here just last year at this time. So February 15th is actually my 1 year with Harmony, so this Wednesday.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's been very exciting.
So
great move.
So tell me about the change that you have seen with going from a place like Hazel and Betty Ford, which obviously it's a very large program with lots of multiple locations, to a place like Harmony, where much more intimate, one location, 40 plus years of history. What do you see the change to be like, moving from a place that was so big like Hazelton to a place like Harmony?
I thought that change would happen faster. I thought that it would be drastically different. And I think that the problems that face, whether it's Hazelton or Karen or Cirque Lodge, face Harmony. It's the same problems across the board. And working with a passionate, well-meaning, devoted clinical team like Harmony has, and saying we're going to examine, start the dialogue on expanding services, on looking at how we can better treat the folks who are coming to us, has happened slowly. And I think that it has to happen slowly in order for it to be organic. And we want people to be participating in the change as it happens. So my goal here has not been to come in and force change, which I've seen happen at some facilities. And it's interesting with a program the size of Hazel and Betty Ford, and I was with Hazel at the time of the merger. There were some things that probably, in hindsight, were a little forced, that should have been organic. I learned a lot about creating change in a clinical environment by being with that group at the time of the merger. What I've seen at Harmony is excitement about change. We have so many people. It's such a special, beautiful location, and with it's 48 years of history. The alumni base, the care and concern that people have about the treatment that we provide here. There has been a very thoughtful conversation around everything that we've changed, from expanding some of our medicated assisted treatment to adding French fries to the menu, which, as you know, is a big win. So it's been very thoughtful, the change, and continues to be. Adding you to the team was a big step for Harmony. We have been one of the leading Colorado treatment centers for almost 50 years, and we're really looking at taking that national. I think what we offer is so exceptional that we want more people to know about it.
Right. No more best. We need to stop being the best kept secret.
Exactly.
We need to be out there nationally.
Exactly.
So, real quickly, talk to me a little bit about your philosophy around recovery and working within a treatment program. I mean, many people go into treatment and they don't really get a chance to interact with the leadership, and they don't understand the philosophy around what does it mean to work for an addiction treatment program. You're in recovery. If a family member were listening today and they were hearing your podcast, what is it that you would want them to know about Harmony's leadership and their commitment to recovery?
So every decision that we make at Harmony, from a C-level, directors, managers, staff, is made with the client's best interest in mind. I happen to be in recovery, as a number of people who work here are. There's also a lot of people that work here who aren't in recovery and don't need to be. I come from a 12-step abstinence base, and which is also the mission of Harmony. Our goal for everyone is that through the steps and through clinical care, you can find a life of abstinence and a life of quality. We have done, as most programs have, medicated assisted treatment at some level. And it's interesting, if you talk within the industry now, medicated assisted treatment equals Suboxone. But the reality is that we've been doing medicated assisted treatment for years. People who come in who, from the days where with Librium to now, smaller doses of gabapentin, trazodone to help people sleep. All of these things help stabilize someone so that they can be present to hear the messages and do the work. Harmony has used buprenorphine for a couple of years as a detox protocol for opiates, and with great success. We've seen a huge reduction in our again, staff advice leaving rates, and our new medical director, Dr. Reevely, really looks at a 5 to 10 day taper for the vast majority of the clients. What we recognize as individual care, and there's a lot, you hear that as a catchphrase from a lot of programs, we're really striving to make that true here at Harmony, where when someone comes in, we look at mind, body, spirit, the entire deal, and say, what is going to help, what's going to help Gina stay present for treatment? And if that means a different medical path, then okay, let's look at that. Let's look at that. I know there was a period of time, and obviously I came from a program that uses buprenorphine with an availability that not a lot of programs do. They've been, at the forefront of making some of those changes. I struggled with it for a little while, and the reality is that I don't want to get on the phone with another family and say, I'm sorry your daughter died. I'm sorry that when she went to the meetings, she couldn't hear the message because she was so focused on heroin. And if a small dose of buprenorphine for a longer period of time could have kept that young lady present, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
And that was not an easy decision for me to come to. I hope for everyone that we can get them detoxed and stabilized to a point where they don't need additional medication. But I've been around long enough to remember the days that when someone showed up at an AA meeting, if they were on Prozac, they were told that they were using it to leave. So I think we have to be open.
Yeah.
There's a there's a phrase in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, contempt prior to investigation. And I think that there has been a lot of gut level reaction to the use of medicated assisted treatment across the board that has come prior to investigation.
Well, for someone with great passion and history, Harmony is very fortunate to have you in our leadership role. We want to thank you for making the commitment to relocate out here to Colorado from Minnesota. And for those of you that are interested in hearing more or learning more about Harmony, we invite you to visit us at Harmony Foundation, Inc. And we look forward to more great things that are going to be happening here at Harmony. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you, Gina.